On this episode, we're going to talk about talent acquisition, retention, and employer branding. So stick around.
With so many different platforms,
Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube,
and their purposes evolving daily, navigating social media can be, well, complicated. Welcome to the Social Media Sucks podcast from Cupco.
Social media really sucks.
Where we unpack the latest trends and help remove the suck from social media.
Hi guys, welcome to the Social Media Sucks podcast. You're tuning in for a dose of marketing and get a scope of what's happening in the ever-changing social media landscape. So today I have Sehested with me, and we're gonna talk about talent acquisition and how to hunt and nurture talents, basically. Mm-hmm. So,
awesome.
Yeah. So we'll actually just
What about here? Am I not here too? Like,
can we cut it?
she's
We have another green person.
I have another person.
We have
in the
someone.
room.
I mean,
Yeah,
he's here
exactly.
again. I mean,
That's fine.
no, of course we have the always smiley and always talented and
I feel so good now. Okay, I'm
and
here
always
as well.
appreciated CEO
Yes,
of
thank you.
Cupco, Chris Coppiners himself.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
here.
Yes,
I feel
give
really
yourself a little applause, guys.
Yes. Okay.
It's
Thank
just-
you.
Usually I forget you when there's guests. I'm like, my attention is solely there.
That's totally
But the
not
good thing
fair.
is
That's
that
the-
Chris, he doesn't
Yeah.
forget himself.
I mean, that's
exactly.
a
I
good.
need
Yeah.
to.
I'm just,
Yeah.
pump myself
I'm just
up,
being a
guys.
good hostess.
Yeah,
I'm like,
thank
yeah,
you.
he's always here.
I'm here.
You're focusing on the guest.
Exactly.
That must be the most important
Exactly.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So welcome.
Thank
you for
you,
joining
Welcome
us.
so
Chris.
much.
And
Yeah.
Thank you.
And today's episode will kind of tap into the role of marketing and social media in recruitment. So we'll try to explore with you how companies can leverage social media for talent acquisition.
Yeah, I'm super excited about
Yeah.
this episode because I think talent acquisition is obviously harder now than ever.
Mm-hmm.
I think like we've seen the market. I think we're at 0% unemployment rate,
It's very low.
which
Yeah.
is like everybody's got a job,
Yeah.
which might be good or a bad thing. I don't know, but obviously, retaining talent, but also acquiring talent is on everybody's mind. Like, how do you do that successfully and get the right people in?
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously something we've had a challenge with. It takes months sometimes to
Yeah.
find the right person. So
And
I'm
also
really interested.
retention is also important, right?
Yeah, especially nowadays, I think like it costs money
Yeah.
when you lose
Yeah.
people. Like literally, like we grew 21 people in 2021, which is interesting. And it was, by far one of the biggest costs was onboarding new people.
Yeah.
So you got to do it right. You can't lose them.
Yeah. So before we deep dive into all that, can you please tell us us and our listeners a little bit about yourself and your work and company?
Yeah. And thank you so much, first of all, for inviting me and
Absolutely.
for color coding the dress today with you, Chris.
We didn't plan that, but it
Yeah,
works.
let's just say we did. But
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you so much for having me and talk about this very interesting topic, which is, you can say, even more hot now with the pandemic, because a lot of people have had time to reflect on what they want to do and how they want to spend their work life.
Yeah.
So we do see a lot of attrition in the workforce with people leaving what they're doing now and seeking new opportunities. So it's a tough market, at least for the employers, but it's definitely a good market for the talents because they can pick and choose more or less as they like.
Yeah.
But what am I doing? I've been working with the talent acquisition and talent management, and I think people around me would characterize me as some kind of a talent innovator or even some kind of a talent nerd, because that's really my passion. And I've been working with all parts of talent acquisition and talent management for the past 20 years.
Wow.
The majority of my career I had with the pharmaceutical company, Novo Nordisk, which is a big company here in Denmark. And I was responsible as a people director to attract and recruit and retain the best people for Novo Nordisk. So I had a global team responsible for our early talents, which was around 1,000 people in and out of the company each year. So quite a big...
That's a lot of people.
Big flow of...
flow of people. But a couple of years ago, I decided to try something else. So now I started my own company, FutureTalent.dk, which is helping. Thank you so much.
Really,
It's It's always good to see an entrepreneur
Yeah,
go on their own.
yeah. It was a tough call, but I was at a part where I really thought that we did a lot of great things in Novo Nordisk, and I was ready to explore new paths. So today I'm helping global companies on creating their strategies within talent acquisition and talent development, helping them to professionalize and take them to the next step when it comes to attracting and retaining and developing the best people for the company.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. And then I have my host role at TEDx Copenhagen, where I'm the host for our Future of Work sessions.
Very relevant also.
Talking with a lot of great people on how the future of work is going to look like when we look at leadership, talent, workforce models, flexible working, etc. And then I'm meeting a lot of people as I'm also facilitating executive networks where I'm meeting with HR leaders and CFOs from different industries to talk about their challenges and what they're dealing with, and have different topics, sharing knowledge. So that's also a great opportunities for me to get insights on what is going on in the work life.
Yeah, you
Makes
get
sense.
exposed to a lot of
Getting
new
stories
topics.
from different corners of work.
perspectives. Yeah.
What are the challenges? What's moving? What's shaking?
Exactly. And what you're saying, Chris, in the introduction about a lot of people are growing now, but it's difficult to getting the right people and the right skills. That's definitely what every time we do a check-in round with the executive, they say exactly what you're saying, that this is what they're dealing with, not only attracting, but also making sure that they retain and develop the best people in the company.
Yeah.
So,
I think one of the bigger challenges also is that, I don't think there's been a time in history where you have, well, there probably is, but there's so many shifting things with technology and culture, and, work-life balance is way different than it was 10, 15, even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think it's just really hard for organizations to manage those expectations across maybe 3 generations in the workforce, right?
Yeah.
You have young Gen Z, you have millennials, you have also Gen X, and maybe even boomers that are still in the workforce. And it's like they all want different things.
Yeah.
And it's like,
And are
how
good
do
at
you-
different things.
Yeah.
And they're good at exactly, and they're acquired different ways and they're retained different ways.
Different skills.
And so creating some sort of process and procedure and strategy across the organization is like they're so different, these generations, and what they want, what they need from their employers, that it's a nightmare.
it's really tough, and the toughest part is that the most relevant or important skills that people have today is the opportunity or the ability to learn and to relearn and to unlearn and relearn again.
Yes.
And how do you
That's
do
really
that
interesting.
with different generations? And I think a lot of companies are very, it's easy to fall in the trap where we say, okay, then we just develop talent programs that are suited for what we think
This
the
specific
majority
profile.
even the majority of the company. But the thing is, if you create that kind of one-fits-all track, then you end up not
Having the best
Anybody.
candidate.
Exactly. So it's not easy being a leader or a manager and figuring out how to get the best out of your people, because there's no doubt that everyone has talent. It's just about figuring out how to release that potential in a specific role or job or environment.
I feel for both sides of the coin, because I do also look at employees. Like, I'm a very employee-driven person because I was an employee for many years. I mean, I haven't always been a boss or run my own company for, many, many years, 20 years of my career. I've been on your side of the table, right? So I understand what it means to feel fulfilled in a job and to feel like you're at a place that supports you and empowers you. And I know what it's like to be at a place that doesn't do those things. And so I really feel for both sides of the coin, because you have employees that are seeking those things. They think seeking actually much more out of their jobs than they used to, right? We want that fulfillment. We want to feel like we have a purpose in this world, that we're helping the world. And it's just, that wasn't a thing that employers had to deal with 20 years ago. It was like, here's your job, do it, get paid, have fun if you can.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Yeah.
But now it's like, you got to have fun. It's got to be fulfilling.
Yeah.
It's got to
Motivate you.
It's got to motivate me.
Yeah.
I gotta
Purpose.
feel-
And,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Like all these things.
But
it's
you
like,
spend so much time at your job, right? So it doesn't even make sense if you don't enjoy it. Like it's 8 hours a day. I mean, it's a no-brainer there. Of course, you want to be somewhere that you are stimulated by. And so I think it's really interesting to tap into this topic from the company side. Let's start with that.
Yeah.
Because I want to ask you if there is what's this difference between talent acquisition and recruitment?
Yeah.
Is there a difference in your opinion?
Well, you can say that the term talent acquisition kind of covers the ongoing process. So that's kind of the umbrella, which covers everything from, on one side, the early stage employer branding, to once you have hired and onboarding, and then all the steps in between. And one of those steps in the talent acquisition process is recruitment.
Yeah.
So that's the main difference.
So acquisition is the entire funnel.
That's the whole process
Okay,
that
that's the whole
covers employer branding, employer value proposition, attraction, outreach, screening, job ads, job advertising,
not just recruitment.
hiring. Not just so recruitment is just one
Small
part
part.
of the acquisition process,
Yeah.
which
Okay.
covers.
Is it circular?
Yeah,
Talent acquisition, does it
it's-
also mean retention and
Talent acquisition is definitely the long haul.
Yeah.
Whereas recruitment is kind of the sprint.
Yeah.
That's
The
you can
step
say
of
that
action.
The
it's a
execution.
linear. It's a linear
Yeah.
process
Yeah.
with an end result, which is the higher.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So,
So it's kind of like a funnel you have to kind of build up at least
yeah.
ish. Okay. So what
That's a good definition.
Yeah.
I like that. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
I always thought about it as just all of recruitment, but it's not.
No,
It's
there's a you can say the recruitment part only covers the sourcing, the selection, the shortlisting, the assessment, the interviewing, and the hiring and the onboarding.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
But there are so many more elements on the whole acquisition, where talking about social media, employer branding, and employer value proposition, the reputation that the company has, and the reputation that they would like to have, is
Sometimes there's a gap there as well, right?
often there's a gap. Yeah.
do you have any tips for companies? Do you have any expertise in that on how to effectively attract talent or talent acquisition?
Yeah, I think it's really important to start with the strategy of the company, and then figure out where is it that we want, what's the direction of the company, where is it that we see ourselves in a couple of years, and then look at which kind of workforce do we need to meet our strategy, and then figure out which kind of skills do we need. So you kind of need to backtrack, and that's the difficult part, because how do you look into an unknown crystal ball of where your company is in 5 years? And I'm looking at you, Chris, because that's probably
wanna
some of
take
the
notes?
thoughts. No, but I know that's the difficult thoughts, because you need to know.
Yeah, can I? No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I got it. No, but we deal with this. I mean, like,
Yeah.
this is. I'm
So how do-
smiling inside
how-
because I know
Yeah,
that this is a challenge.
it's a challenge, but it's those discussions that are important to have in a management team to figure out what are the talents that you need to have today to ensure that you don't have a gap on the critical skills that you need in a couple of years from now.
Yeah.
So, and I think that, when you ask about what is good around employer branding or talent acquisition, I think it's really important to figure out exactly what you're saying. Is there a gap between the employer brand that we think we have, so how people, the reputation we have, how people are perceiving our company, and how we would like our company to be perceived. So I'm often working with companies on defining their employer value proposition, telling the good stories of the companies, giving those peer stories where future candidates have a good feeling of who are the people that I would like to work with. When I came into to your office today, there's definitely a really cool vibe that you can feel, because the people they love to be here. You can
That's
definitely.
why he sent me to greet you.
I didn't do that.
No, but I think these are the stories that no matter how much you try to force an employer brand. It's the story that you and your colleagues share with your friends and your family, and those are the stories that people focus at when they pick a new job, and not necessarily what the CEO says. These are our essentials and corporate strategy and values and culture and stuff like that. No. They want.
I definitely think it's ground up. I think it's like word of mouth from employee to employee. People in the industry talk and they know sort of what's going on, and you want that anyway, especially in social media. You want your employees saying good things about you. Like, you know, a post from us on LinkedIn saying how great we are doesn't do anything.
No.
But employees going, you know, I love my workplace, I love to do this or that, like that makes the biggest impact. I think.
It seems
So
also more authentic and believable.
Yeah. That's why I pay them to post good things about
exactly.
us. It works really well. It goes in it goes in the contract. You must post at least twice a week about how great.
Yeah,
to get your
bonus.
bonus.
We get bonuses depending on how much we post.
I love
That's
this.
why you see sometimes like a rise in in shares.
People are trying to get their bonus for the year.
Not very pushy, but that's how it is.
It's a good propaganda machine.
Yeah, exactly. But how do we then keep moving from the talent acquisition part, but how do you then keep and nourish the talent that is in the company, as we see the talent acquisition as a full circle, right? How do we keep them loyal? How do we, as we mentioned, there's more jobs than ever, and loyalty to the jobs people have are actually decreasing over the years. You can. I mean,
can you actually keep people loyal? That's I think that's a bigger question.
Exactly.
Is that even possible now?
Yeah. Now you take notes.
And that's always. I mean, that's this discussion on, you know, build versus buy. What's the strategy that you want to have? Do you really want to invest in developing your own resources long term, or would you rather say, okay, we would rather have new knowledge coming in ongoing, which can be good and it can be extremely costly because it's taking out a lot of knowledge and it's can be challenging to onboard a lot of new people. But I think when it comes to being an attractive place to work, which is really the key to retaining people, I think it's really important that you treat your employees as customers.
Yeah.
So
that's an
you
interesting
can
phrase.
you elaborate.
You need to see your people as customers who from one day to the other can pick another product. So if you don't create a nice working environment with development opportunities, and I think that, you know, we talked a lot about the traditional career ladder where people, they just want to progress. I think that career ladder is dead. So we see much more focus on horizon job flows. So as long as people are moving and feeling that they develop towards what they think is meaningful and with the purpose as the flag, the guiding flag or the guiding star, then I think that companies are successful if they manage to create an environment where they treat their people as their customers.
Do you think it varies depending on industries? Or is there like a general best practice?
Yeah, I think that, you know, what I see and what I've also heard in Novo Nordisk, because I think that, you know, and I can say that because I'm not in that industry anymore, but I feel a little bit that when you talk about recruitment, the change and the development that we've seen in recruitment reminds me of the change that we've seen in the way we take school pictures. I mean, not much have changed over the past 100 years. If you look at school photos, it's the same recruitment process.
Different hairstyles.
Yeah.
It's different hairstyles. More or less color, different brands. But I mean, we still have the traditional cover letter, the CV, assessment, interview, step 1, 2, 3. I mean, I think that the companies who dare to
change the model,
change status quo of how they recruit and how they do talent acquisition, they are the ones who are interested to be part of. And I think that companies like, for example, Pleo, which
Pleo.
I think that they really hit the mark because
do you know what they do?
They
Do you know
do.
what
They do credit cards.
No, I mean the talent, the recruitment
okay,
thing. Yeah.
So yeah, I if you look at their job ads, they have some really interesting ways of creating their job ads, which is very different from what I've seen in the pharmaceutical industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they would say, for example, we have difficult problems to solve, so we need creative people like you, which is like not just the skill set. Yeah, they're speaking directly, and they are not afraid of saying that, you know, even though it's a tough working environment, we have fun. But they say it in a really inspiring way, and I think that's where a lot of big corps look towards the startup companies to see what is it that they do, what's in their DNA when it comes to finding and handpicking. Because 10 years ago when I started in Novo Nordisk, we have 10,000 of applications for our graduate programs. Now this changed over time because competition changed, and more and more graduate programs came to the market. So I think that if companies are not bold to change the way they make their job ads, if they even do job ads, we were the first movers in Novo Nordisk to introduce a video recruitment.
Okay.
Which now it sounds like a very
no, it
old,
doesn't. I still think like video recruitment is the way to go, and I think there's a lot of companies that still don't.
Yeah,
they do the standard sort of like, you know, thing. Even us, I mean, we still do pretty standard job ads.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Like, you have to be a little bit more interesting, right? Because there is so many options.
Yeah.
And that also comes down to benefits. That comes down to employer branding. You have to be a bit different. Like across the board, you have to look at like a competitive marketplace, like you would, and just say, okay, how do we look and feel and act different than our competitors when it comes to hiring as well, right?
Yeah.
So,
and I think especially if you're a creative company, it's not very creative to ask people to send a cover letter and a CV.
Not really, no.
For that.
And I remember when we were screening like big balls of applications, it was so nice and inspiring when the candidates, they took some, you can say, brave decisions. I had a candidate once who just, instead of his CV, he just sent a big photo of himself running around in the woods playing, you know, Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
And I was like, I had a big pile of application, and I was like, oh, first I laughed, and I was like,
okay, this guy's
really?
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, this is so brave. I really need to talk with this.
Did he get the job?
He did get the job.
Okay.
He's actually a vice president today.
Okay,
So,
jeez, nice.
he did very well.
What a good story.
But I think it's about, you know, trying to experiment and not being afraid of trying new things like video recruitment or removing the cover letter and taking questions instead.
Yeah.
Or
have you noticed any I'm looking at Chris and asking him, have you seen any changes in our industry in advertising? I don't know if you is something you have paid attention to at all.
Yes, I think that like the big change for me has been like just applying with your LinkedIn profile. We don't ask for CVs anymore. Like, and I think also our process is very much about the person culturally. Like we check for skills, very much so, and then we check to see, you know, are they going to fit culturally, and then we get them to talk to different people in our organizations to get a vibe check.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot of that, I think, what I would say in terms of the process. Also recruitment, I've actually got a list of people that I want to work with. Yeah. So I've already scoped out, like, for example, David, our head of strategy, I was connected with him maybe 2 years before he became a person in our company.
Yeah.
And I was already sort of like, he's on my hit list of people that I want in the company. And I think if you are trying to, like you said, have a 2-year sort of window into what talent are you going to need, then I think you can already start mapping that out mostly.
Yeah.
If you need heads of departments or you need specific, you can actually go in, because everyone's on LinkedIn, or anybody who's actually doing great work are going to shine through. So you can already start to sort of put that together.
And I think that's where a lot of companies win if they have the ability to build those talent pipelines in advance. So when they need people, they have a good connection and they can reach out at the time where they need that person for the specific job. It's a little bit going away from the traditional post and pray strategy where, as we all know, you just post an application and then you hope that the people will apply to much more hunt and hire, where you're much more focused on specific candidates to keep them warm.
And I think that's the biggest change, that almost everyone's got their like from a creative industry standpoint, almost everybody's got their portfolio up. In the creative industries, you can see like who's winning awards, who's not, who's and so you're already trying to set a sort of a thing up where you understand who's
you're
the
available,
next,
you're
who's
visible.
the next person coming into the company, right? And if there's also a sort of a more, I would say there's that strategy, but then there's also, if we lose this person, who's going to fill that gap? So there's also that understanding that people are with the company 2 or 3 years, and so understanding there's a natural churn for companies, specifically in creative. You know, I've kind of had to come to terms with the fact that, you know, we have people for only 2 years or 3 years. That's kind of a good,
that's your rate.
That's a typical rate. So you have to, you know, understand that you're going to continually invest in new talent. You're going to continually have to have a pipeline, like you said, or just a new way of looking at things like freelancers, or because of the gig economy, maybe you don't need to have 40 employees. Maybe you need 30 employees, and then the rest can be freelancers or, you know, specific, you know.
That's something that's starting to grow now, is what is called talent sharing, where you actually have a platform where you can share talent across industries, but also, and I think it started in Unilever, that had this talent platform within the company where they saw how they could move skills across different functions and corners of the organization.
That's a really good idea.
Which, when it comes to retention, is a really good way to think about succession management. How do you make sure that you have the right people ready for when the right job comes? And that's
interesting.
So I think that a lot of stuff is happening because companies are being forced to think differently, because otherwise they lose their talent.
And I think what you brought up a really good point with the whole development, like people want to develop. And sometimes that's hard in a particular role within a particular department, simply because there isn't a succession. There isn't a, you know,
an opportunity.
There's not an opportunity, right? So you really have to say, well, do we want to let like that person just leave on their own because they're going to go find another place to be because they can't? Or is it better to have an open, honest conversation with them and say, hey, you're at this spot. There's no real up. There's no more ladder left. You're either at the place that you have to be for the long time, or, you know, there's really nothing here for you in this line. Should we move you somewhere else? It might be like you said, a horizontal move and not a vertical move, but it's a horizontal move into something totally different, or something like what you're doing, but just in a different area. Should we do that instead? And then you can develop skills for this particular thing. And I think that's also very, you know, a good move.
But I think that's kind of something that you can push in a nice way if you are aware of the talent bloggers, as I call them. And I don't think you have that issue here, because people
we do a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because not blockers, not people that are blocking anything, but it's just, you know, there's a certain level, like for example, is a project manager, right? She's a junior, then she's been a regular project manager, and then the next line is really senior. And at that point, you're kind of done. You either steal Vicky's job. You kind of steal Vicky's job, or we put you in a different line. Maybe an account manager, or maybe even a digital strategist at that point, because you've done so many projects and you understand. So it's really like there has to be.
I like how this is going into a development conversation.
Well, we are annual review. This is annual review.
Let's take it now then.
So no, but I mean, like it's a very good. It's something that you have to think about individually for every employee.
I mean, we definitely lost quite a few very good people in Novo Nordisk because it's a really great company, and so for that reason, people stay there for a long time. So when
I'm
you
surprised when I
went
talk
around
to,
the organization and you would be like, "Hi, I'm Preben. I've been with Novo Nordisk for 40 years." And it's like, okay, that's not unusual.
the average.
But it's a challenge if you're an early talent and you are in a department where you know that the next position you want to be in, that person at least have 10 years to retirement.
Okay.
You gotta,
so that way
you gotta like slip some poison in their coffee.
But over and out. Yeah.
And, they've got COVID, I guess somehow. I don't know. How. I guess
an extreme version.
Now I have to take their job.
Okay.
That's really like, okay, that's dark, right? That's
you're not giving me any ideas. Don't worry.
No, don't knock off.
I'm not gonna do it to be.
No, but it's a very good. It's a problem.
Yeah.
Right. And you have to also understand, like, I think something that I've learned personally about talent retention and talent acquisition is that, like you said, Novo Nordisk is a great company, great benefits, great, culture, great people. Sometimes that's not enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes people want to try different things. Sometimes people just want something else, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
And you have to, as an organization, sort of have those plans in place or have those ideas in place that people are going to leave.
Yeah.
That's just like, customers, you said, you treat them like customers leave too.
Yeah.
And they just want to try something else. They sort of reach the end of your relationship. And
but I think
how it is.
something that I learned also from TEDx Copenhagen, but also from working with the CEO of Novo Nordisk, Lars Furgaard, is how you kind of develop people in the rhetoric. So instead of what we normally ask people, I would ask you, what is the next position that you're interested in? I would rather ask, what's the problem that you want to solve?
That's
Which
a nice
also,
way of looking at it.
And it was actually Nora Siggenhagen from who is the head of digital learning in Google for EMEA, who said that to me in a talk with her, and I was like, that's really interesting because that can also open some perspectives and new
reflections,
but also company opportunities that you may not have seen before.
Because maybe the position doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a much better question.
Yeah.
So what problems do you want to solve next?
Yeah.
I'm not your boss, so I have no stake in this at all. But,
no, not at all.
No.
It's just annual reviews. I think you're giving Vicky ideas to ask me.
I think I'm going to add this question to our review session.
Should do that.
What problems
you're welcome.
do you want to solve next?
You're welcome.
Thank you. I love this. Those of you listening on the podcast or watching on the podcast, take notes. This is a brilliant question
exactly
to ask your employees at the next review. Or don't even wait for a review. Do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just slack
Just
it.
do it.
Yeah. What problems do you want to solve?
Next. No, next.
Yeah.
That's go solve. Yeah.
That's a great one. I'm gonna steal that. Thank you. I love it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You both had a lot to say about this question, actually, how to keep people at the companies and keep them loyal.
You can't.
But you can keep them for long. I mean, you can have them for life, but I mean,
I want them for life
if they're good.
But there are so many things you can do, and I think that a lot of the traditional stuff, as having a good mentor, role models. But I have to say, from my experience, I'm much more focused on developing people on the go, meaning that I would rather take the personal development in the field. We did some really cool programs in Novo Nordisk, my old manager Ove and I, where we made these learning journeys. Before, we just gave our talent a bag of money and we were like, okay, you can go to Howard or LSE for a 5-day course. And then, I went on one of those in my early careers and I remember absolutely nothing from that.
Okay, yeah.
But then we made the learning journeys where we invited our group of talent to Cambodia, Kuala Lumpur, Vietnam, Kenya, to show them the real world of being a patient living with diabetes.
Yeah.
And that made a real impact, and people really understood why am I working in this company.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
So that's and there's a lot of people say, well, isn't it costly? Well, compared to making a traditional course or sending them to a business school, based on the knowledge stickiness that they get.
I mean, it's you kind of have to see it as an investment, right? If you acquire some really good talent, it's, as you said, it's costly actually to recruit all the time, and it's a lot of resources going into it. So you kind of have to see it as an investment when you want to develop and have that retention of your current employees.
Yeah.
That's a good approach. And I actually want to ask you a little bit more about, Chris, you said something really interesting about having a hit list almost, and, you know, looking at people, because everybody's so visible right now with LinkedIn and platforms, especially in our creative industry. What role do you see social media playing nowadays? I mean, you must have seen that development a lot with your career within Novo Nordisk also. Yeah. Like, what's the link between social media and talent acquisition nowadays? Like, what's social media platforms do you think is best for looking for talent?
Yeah, I think that the role of social media has definitely
affected,
been on a high roll for the last couple of years. Yeah. If you asked me 3 years ago, I would definitely advocate that face-to-face activity, when you talk about outreach, was much more powerful. Yeah. We did a lot of tracking, seeing that for specific programs, 75% of the candidates we hired were actually people who have met us face-to-face, either at career activities, skills seminars, case competition, company presentations, etc. But a couple of years ago, we also did a kind of rebranded or revisited our employer brand in Novo Nordisk, the life-changing career. And we try to rethink how to make the brand even more powerful without using too many resources on agencies. Sorry, guys, but
no, it's fine.
But we thought, okay, we are actually having the gold right in front of us. We have 42,000 employees in the company that are ambassadors and can tell the stories that future candidates are interested in hearing. So we did much more on training our ambassadors, the employees, on how to navigate and how to share their stories on social media. And I definitely think when it comes to recruitment, LinkedIn is definitely the platform. The platform when it comes to recruitment, both on, you can say, the sourcing part, keeping candidates warm and stuff like that. But it's also a great platform for employer branding, sharing and celebrating successes of the companies and sharing different stories. Whereas you can say Facebook is more the platform where you do like webinars and skills seminars and virtual company presentations. It's easier to interact on that platform. Yeah. And then I think from an employer branding perspective, the more long whole perspective, you actually say that it takes around 8 years to create a good employer brand.
Really?
Okay.
So there's a lot of work that needs to be strategically put in and not to be underestimated. And I think that Instagram and Snapchat is very good platforms to share those employee stories.
It's more personal.
It's more personal than, you know, I mean, a lot of companies do that today. Then they leave their story to an employee for a day. Takeovers, yeah.
Yeah, that works.
That works really powerful. So I think that different platforms have different opportunities, but if it comes to recruitment and specific hires, I think that LinkedIn, at least in Denmark, is probably the most used. Yeah. Of course, there's also a lot of job platforms, but it's much easier to engage your employees as ambassadors if you're on LinkedIn compared to if you're on Job Index or all of these other
because it is kind of a social media, right? Like for instance, Job Index is more like a little bank, a little job, exactly, job portal. So it's not. It may be something you interact with on a daily basis.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think you hit it. I don't think I can add anything to that. That was perfect.
I'm just curious, is there any building blocks that you can tell us a little bit more about with this 8 years of building a good employee branding?
Yeah, actually, let's take it from a different way. Like, what mistakes do you see brands making?
bumps on the roads. Yeah.
What shouldn't they do?
Yeah. I think over-promising is probably the worst thing you can do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is painting a picture that's not true. Or giving...
A little less authentic, right?
Yeah.
It's
Or,
like, this is the greatest company ever. Like, you'll be so fulfilled. And
and
like,
then you come in and it's
like
super
not-
boring.
yeah.
And
So there is that sort of thing that happens, right? That like the employer brand is this place where everyone's high-fiving and like,
Yeah.
it's just not the reality.
Those the stock images you
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. Super polished.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that there needs to be a connection between, how the company walk the talk, how the company is working every day, how it looks on a gray Tuesday morning or Tuesday night, and what you want to share you are as a company. So I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people don't stay long, is because they have a perspective of the company or some expectations that are not true.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I also think that a lot of companies, they are not, tapping into the opportunity that they have with the company, because they simply don't use the power of social media, because they don't tell the stories. I just did a project for an up-and-coming Danish company who needed some help on creating their social media strategy. And they were like, well, I looked at it and I thought, okay, you have a lot of followers. 25,000 followers on LinkedIn, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
And what you do right now is that you share job ads. So I was like, why don't you share? There was a person who had the birthday. Why don't you share the celebration? They did a really cool celebration for that colleague. And they were like, ooh, we can't do that. And that needs to be approved
From the top.
for all these levels. And I was like, let's just try it.
Yeah. See how
And they were like, okay, hold on tight.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
get the legal department.
Exactly. And then they could, they could track that it was actually one of the posts that got most engagement and most likes and stuff because
That's
it was authentic.
It's like my 40th birthday party.
Yeah, that was epic. We
I
did something
well on
really nice for
TikTok.
you, actually.
Yeah, they
On
did.
TikTok.
Such good employees you have.
I know, you guys are amazing. They all wore like Chris costumes.
Yeah, we wore ball caps and then fake beards and then Copco shirts and just waited here and played Celine Dion, because she's from Canada and Chris is from Canada. Out the window, blasting it out on the streets. Yeah.
But,
That's funny.
Yeah, and then they were all hiding in here, and then had like poppers. And we
But
had
that's what people think is interesting.
Yeah, but that's a good thing about your employees. We have social media just off the back, right? So we always we live through there. Yeah.
And you guys aren't afraid of being bold. I think that's the other thing.
And I think
like,
if you want to stand out, you need to share those stories.
Yeah.
I also have another old colleague that created the company Lab Fresh, which is a company that have shirts that can, like nano shirts that doesn't take any dirt.
Okay. Yeah.
And so they did a post a couple of years ago where the founders were standing at a pool with these big inflatable things. I don't know what's it called, the pelican or the
like the
flamingos.
Flamingos.
Yeah.
And then they had all the employees on the side of the swimming pool. And then they said, and I thought, who posts that on LinkedIn? I mean, first of all, half-naked people. Are you crazy? And then I was like, okay, I need to read what's going on. And what they talked about was the fact that they did a calculation on doing an offsite. And instead of taking everyone to a weekend trip in Holland, they took everyone for months to Bali.
Okay.
Oh my God.
And I think those stories
where are we going?
I'm sorry for putting that seat.
We're going to Ballerup.
Ballerup, yeah. That's also going south a little bit.
Maybe just Spain. That would be nice.
Spain.
We can start small.
Yeah.
Okay.
Log it in. Let's document it.
Yes.
Now you're.
Thank you, Carolina. Really good job.
Okay, but that's so cool though. Can we let's move it a little bit from company perspective to the employee side, the talent side. Actually, how do you get discovered? Like, what is a good way to behave when you want to represent a company or being hired in a company?
I think, those are two different things. From a representative perspective, I think it's really important to know, you can say, the unwritten code of conduct of the company. So, I mean, for your company, there seems to be no boundaries on what you can post and what you cannot post. But
there's a few things.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
But I mean, we don't have our written rules.
No.
We just talk to people afterwards and be like, probably wouldn't post that if I were you.
Yeah.
But
for some,
hopefully it's not my impression.
There've been a few incidents that we had to like take something down and.
All right. Okay.
And have some talks with people.
Okay.
But
all right.
I feel you have a little bit more wiggle room.
We have a lot more.
Yeah. I've not been blocked or warned yet.
No. You've been safe.
But for
actually, there is something that we have to talk about later.
I feel the list is getting long.
There is something we actually reminds me. There is something. No, it's not your fault. You were a part of it, but it wasn't your fault.
Ooh, it's getting hard. Can we open it?
Yeah, exactly.
No, we haven't. Yeah, exactly. It's not serious at all. I mean, you have to. Mistakes happen. People are people.
But I think in some industries, it can hit harder.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you're in the pharmaceutical industry, talking about product is not a good thing. Getting a lawsuit in the US is. Yeah. So I think that we trained the newcomers and the talent in Novo Nordisk on how to behave on LinkedIn and what to share and what to be aware of not sharing. Yeah, and I think that's good too, because a lot of people. I mean, I think for the younger generation, it's not a problem because they are so used to it. But I think that some of the more mature generation, they definitely need a push on posting much more than they do now. But they also need to be educated on do's and don'ts. Yeah,
I mean, I have a mindset about it, which is like, there's the code of conduct, but it's also, I can't force somebody to be social who's not social media.
No.
Artie is not super into he's into social from a job perspective, and he knows how to, like, from a video editing standpoint, what's working and what's not. Mm-hmm. But Artie's not like posting every day on social media, right? Yeah. And that's fine. And I think companies have to realize that trying to get employee ambassadors that are not naturally great at that is not possible.
It's going back to the employer brand.
Exactly. So you have to pinpoint people that make sense for it. You post a lot, and Dylan and sort of Malena, our head of TikTok, and Caroline is. I mean, we have actually people in our company that are influencers. Yeah. So it's fine to get those people because they're gonna.
Yeah, it's natural.
It's natural, and they're going to love it, and it's actually going to not feel like oh God, I got to do this again. Yeah. But like, I can't wait to do this again.
Yeah. So
it's important for companies who want to do those employee ambassador things and get them out on social that you pick, the people that are, so I agree.
Yeah.
True.
I think actually we are at the end of the road. That was a quick hour. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly.
That was good.
There's
probably
really
good. 1,000 things we could talk about, though.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
I mean, do you have any last questions for our special guest?
I have one that we're going to do off camera, actually, which is very interesting, which has to do with like the US versus Europe, if you have any experience with that, because I think that's something interesting for our own company and also companies that are looking to expand. It's an interesting thing that's, going on there. And then also in the age of COVID, definitely like recruitment has changed, I think, a lot. And it's changed also how we look at,
I think what we're seeing now, and I had the discussion with some of the executives that I met with last week, because McKinsey just did a new study on the great attrition. I don't know if you read the article.
Great resignation.
Yeah. Where they foresee that 40% are likely to change job within the next 3 to 6 months. And they were like, well, that's published in the US, or that is a research from the US, and that's not how it is in Europe. And I'm like, but even though it's not 40% and it's only, you could say 20%, it's still a problem.
Yeah. Or it's not a problem. I mean, this is the other thing is like, you can't keep people who don't want to be here.
No.
Or there, or wherever you're at.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that this is where things are, and you have to adjust your strategies and say, all right, churn is high. Talent acquisition is tough. What are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
And I think that's where companies have to sort of get their shit together and say, okay, and also have a plan of attack if they don't have the right people and they don't have
and I think that's
the talent is out there.
Yeah,
they're just in a different place.
And that's another discussion that a lot of people, a lot of companies are also afraid to let go.
Yeah.
Instead of taking the right decision that person might have a better career in another company. But I think right now there's so much focus on how do we acquire the right talent instead of looking into how do we actually develop and retain the people that we already have on board. And that's can be a different or a challenging way to use your resources and investments.
It's funny you said that, because that's exactly how we had a strategy meeting at the end of 2021 here, middle of December. And that was the message to my management group: retain our people. Yeah. It's all I want you to do. Focus completely on retention. Yeah. Because that's what, that's what's going to let us win in the future, right? Yeah. And actually, we've had like 3 people quit in the last 20 days, so it's not working. No. But it is a case of that's that's what I think you're spot on for other managers out there listening or employers. It's like retention is really the game right now. I think. Nice having you.
Thank you so much for having me.
I really want to summarize for listeners who listened through or just tapping in now. But
did you make it the hour, guys? That's amazing.
That's insane. And maybe it's over hour. Right? I don't know.
Was it already?
Maybe a little bit over. 50. Okay, interesting. So I have a time slot to summarize. But thank you so much, Caroline Sehested, for joining us for today's episode about talent acquisition and the role of marketing and social media and how companies can leverage social media for talent acquisition. So we both touch upon talent acquisition from a company side. How do you recruit? How do you actually acquire talent? The whole funnel here and also retention, obviously, to keep the talent motivated and staying loyal to the company. Yeah. And we talked about what social media platforms is good for hires, for different processes in, having a talent from start to end. And we also just briefly touched about the talent side, actually, how to be a good employee, in terms of branding, and a good, ambassador for the company, and what to do and maybe not to do. And so thank you so much, guys, for listening. So please subscribe, leave your thoughts, your feedback, your likes and dislikes with us, and get a chance to win $100 gift card to. Is it still Amazon, or
can I participate?
Yes,
cool. Definitely. Make your friends participate. Make your friends listen. Do we have another? This
winner?
2022. Do we have another page in Amazon? What's your favorite currently?
Amazon is good.
Okay,
let's do Amazon. But we're gonna switch it up next time, guys. So this is your final chance to get on the Amazon gift card.
Exactly.
Is this episode? So please do what
engage.
You can to get that, and then next time it's gonna be a totally different website. It's gonna be
Wish.
Wish.com. I love Wish.com.
Who knows?
I love Wish.com.
We'll see. eBay, whatever.
You can get a lot for $100.
Yeah, exactly. You can get a lot for $100.
On Wish. Yeah.
So thank you so much for listening, and tune in for the next one. See you.
Adios.
Thank you.
This has been the Social Media Sucks Podcast.